The FBI just discovered a secret suitcase hidden in Diddy's mother's basement. Inside are tapes and memory cards, which could shake Hollywood. On June 21st at exactly 5:17 a.m., the quiet neighborhood of Mount Vernon, New York, was jolted awake by an unmarked convoy from the FBI. They didn't need to knock. They had an emergency search warrant, and they knew precisely what they were looking for beneath the wooden floorboards of the basement in the house once owned by Diddy's mother, Mrs. Janice Combs. 2 hours later, the air had grown thick and heavy with an unmistakable stench. A forensics unit was brought in. 3D cameras, ground-penetrating grader, and eventually wooden panels were pried open in the cold earth nestled between concrete and old unrecognizable blood stains. Multiple corpses were found tightly wrapped in plastic, partially decomposed, stacked on top of one another. An independent source confirmed at least 3 bodies had been discovered, one of which was a minor, when the first photo leaked online, grainy but clear enough to reveal what America had never been prepared to face. A single question began echoing across forums everywhere. Could this be the final secret Diddy had buried right beneath his own mother's feet? Part 1: The Dawn. Raid. FBI knocks on the door of hell in the early hours of June 21st, while most residents of Mount Vernon were still sound asleep. An unmarked convoy suddenly entered the neighborhood where the house of Janice Combs, the biological mother of famous hip-hop artist Sean Diddy Combs, was located. No sirens, no flashing warning lights, only a suffocating silence broken by the firm knock of an FBI agent at the door. This was a meticulously planned raid based on insider information, and this time they weren't leaving empty-handed. At the FBI's New York headquarters, an emergency meeting was held immediately afterward, attended by representatives from the Department of Justice, the Federal Financial Crimes Task Force, and criminal psychology experts. Photos from the scene revealed that the body bags had been arranged deliberately, not in the chaotic manner typical of hasty disposal, but in a way that appeared almost ritualistic. Next to the bodies, the FBI recovered a half-burned leather notebook containing scattered character synods with drawings of symmetrical circular symbols, strikingly similar to those often seen in underground cults. A ritual crime specialist at Quantico, after a preliminary analysis, described it as a discovery that could potentially shift the entire direction of the Diddy case. According to her, if it can be proven that these were victims linked to Theramord private parties within the entertainment industry, the case would no longer be just a personal issue. It would expose a broader network of organized crime. That same day, Twitter exploded with the hashtags "Hated Basement Bodies" and hashtag "Diddy Cover-Up." Old footage of Diddy, in which he once said everything have comes from sacrifices no one dares to speak of, was pulled apart and dissected. Fans were divided. Some demanded justice for the victims, while others insisted Diddy was being politically targeted or sabotaged by enemies within the music industry, more notably a former employee from the real estate office that handled the Combs family estate. Revealed that the basement in question had been renovated and reinforced in 2014, coinciding with the disappearance of a young dancer named Kiara B. in New York, who was rumored to have ties to Diddy's event team. Kiara B's missing person case had previously been closed to insufficient evidence, but now a small body found in the basement with matching height and bone structure is forcing the FBI to reopen the investigation, this time under the angle of premeditated homicide. The FBI is currently requesting DNA samples from Kiara B's family for comparison, and in an unprecedented development, major media outlets like CNN, NBC, and even Fox News have stopped broadcasting live updates from the scene, opting instead to reference pre-approved news segments. This has only deepened the online public's suspicion. Is there a force working behind the scenes to control the scope and direction of the case? What began as a financial raid targeting the assets of a high-profile entertainer has now spiraled into a chaotic tangle of ritualistic crimes, organized murder allegations, and secrets buried directly beneath the feet of the suspect's own flesh and blood. With every excavation, investigate move one step deeper into a nightmare that America is not yet ready to name, but the machine is in motion, and if the initial signs prove accurate, this could become the most explosive criminal case in modern American entertainment history. That same afternoon, an anonymous source from within the Manhattan District Attorney's Office confirmed that they are preparing additional search warrants for at least 2 more properties tied to the Combs family, including a penthouse that had reportedly hosted private parties in the late 2000s. These homes, once symbols of wealth and power, now links in a dark chain of events the public has dubbed Diddygate. The scandal has become so intense that several human rights activists have called for an independent congressional investigation committee, citing the potential collusion between law enforcement agencies and elite circles in covering up serious human rights violations. The hashtag #JusticeForTheForgotten began trending, led by independent journalists and whistleblowers who have previously spoken out about abuse within the entertainment industry. Janice Combs, long thought to be uninvolved in the investigation, is now being considered a key witness. A former housekeeper who worked in her home from 2015 to 2017 has contacted a lawyer claiming to have seen a group of strange men entering and exiting the basement in the middle of the night with some surveillance equipment hidden behind the walls. Her statement is currently being verified, but if confirmed, it would shatter the narrative that Janice knew nothing about the secrets buried beneath her own house. The public is in shock, social media is in chaos, and above all, one ominous question looms: if this is what was found in Diddy's mother's house alone, what else might still be buried elsewhere, places no one dares to touch? Protected by fame and influence, a basement, 3 corpses, bizarre symbols, and a music empire teetering on the edge of collapse. The next chapter in the investigation, a card to a senior agent, will be darker than anything America has ever imagined. Part to the hunt through the names time tried to forget, as news of the 3 bodies discovered beneath Janice Combs's floor spread like wildfire. The biggest question wasn't just who died, but rather why did never know the identities of the victims, at least based on preliminary autopsy reports revealed that they had all been present at events linked to Diddy's entertainment network, especially Theramore private parties held between 2008 and 2013, the peak of his power in the American music industry. One of the 3 victims is believed to be Samantha Lee, a freelance model who appeared in a Bad Boy Records music video in 2010. Her missing persons case was closed after just for months to insufficient criminal evidence, a vague phrase that has been used in dozens of similar entertainment-related cases. Samantha was last seen at a private event in the Hamptons where she attended with a group of stylists and assistants from Diddy's production team. Her family has been speaking out for 14 years, but press remained silent, and local police noted no sign of foul play. That case is now being reopened by the FBI under a federal criminal investigation. Other bodies have yet to be positively identified, but one is believed to be male, with a previously fractured jawbone matching a description in an unpublished medical report from a Bronx hospital that once treated a street dancer allegedly assaulted. After trying to leave a secret party group, the medical record went missing. Police at the time ruled it as a personal dispute, but the FBI sees it differently. A senior investigator from the Federal Case Profiling Unit commented, "We're no longer searching for isolated victims, we're tracking a pattern: young, vulnerable individuals with informal ties to the entertainment industry who vanished without a trace." New witnesses are also beginning to come forward. A former stage assistant who worked a private party in 2011 at a studio in LA has contacted a legal team representing victims. In a recorded statement, this person described a lower-level storage area fitted with infrared cameras and magnetic locks, a place no one could enter unless they had a personal access card from Diddy or a senior manager. That description matches the basement layout of Janice Combs' house, prompting many to suspect this was not merely a hiding place, but a central hub in a tightly concealed network that operated for years on social media. An old photo from 2010 suddenly went viral. The image shows a dimly lit party with masked indicia. Many users claim to have identified Diddy, a young-looking Justin Bieber, and even Oprah blurred in the background. Though the photo remains unverified, it has further fueled public suspicion. How many celebrities knew and how many chose to remain silent? It is that very silence that has forced the FBI to broaden its investigation card to a leaked internal report. Over the past 15 years, more than 7 cases of missing persons or suspicious deaths have had indirect connections to entertainment events funded or produced by Diddy's network. Of those, only 3 led to criminal prosecution, all of which were dismissed due to lack of evidence. Human rights groups have created an online database called Project Echo dedicated to collecting cases of disappearances suspected to be linked to the entertainment world. They have pledged to cooperate with investigators and release all available information on the site's homepage. Samantha Lee's photo appears first next to 2 unidentified faces. The brief captions under each image offer a chilling warning. If you've ever had contact with anyone tied to this network, speak out before it's too late. As public pressure mounts, celebrities once close to Diddy still being pulled into the storm. Old videos, unexplained overseas trips, and previously ignored photos are now being re-examined as potential evidence. Reports suggest that a former bodyguard of Diddy is now under witness protection. He's believed to possess the guest list for at least 5 restricted access parties held at properties in Georgia, Miami, and a villa in Turks and Caicos. And it doesn't end there. A leaked internal email from a major record label has revealed unclear financial ties between Diddy and a chain of art-related charities organizations that had previously sponsored international cultural exchange programs. Investigators suspect that some of these programs may have been exploited to recruit or control victims. As the puzzle pieces fall into place, the full picture is emerging. This is no longer a personal scandal. This is a system, an underground structure shielded by money, fame, and silence. The forgotten names have now become the center of a historic investigation, and if justice is truly served, those who once stood at top the world will be forced to bow before the light of truth. Part 3: The heavy phone call and the final pieces of the puzzle. Today's after the FBI released preliminary forensic results from the basement of Janice Coombs' house, a mysterious phone call lasting less than 4 minutes between a satellite phone and Diddy's legal representative redirected entire investigation. The call did not feature Diddy's voice, but the words spoken by the man on their recording were enough to send chills through federal authorities. We used to keep everything clean. If he talks, more people are going to the grave. The audio was immediately encrypted and filed under classified records, but news of its existence leaked, and the public began to question, is Diddy being manipulated, or is he merely the visible tip of a much darker iceberg? That very day, a federal agent from the organized crime unit was transferred from Chicago to New York to take command of the investigation. His name was Reuben Tate, famously known as the man who unmasked the entertainment industry's mafia. Tate had previously led a successful operation to dismantle a major West Coast record label's money laundering ring in 2017, and this time he arrived with a specialized team focused on exposing connections between celebrities, politics, and underground financial systems. All trails led to one specific location, a private property in the Bahamas owned by an offshore company registered under the name of a man who once served as Diddy's tour manager between 2006 and 2009. According to satellite data, the site had received dozens of unannounced private jet landings at hours outside standard commercial flight windows. Industry insiders had long whispered about a so-called second island for the entertainment elite. No one dared verify its existence until the FBI obtained satellite images showing structures resembling covert film studios. Photographic evidence revealed a lion head statue placed at the center of a clearing on the island, a detail eerily identical to a full back tattoo once seen in a well-known celebrity closely linked to Diddy, who has since wiped all social media accounts and vanished from public life. Since 2021, conspiracy theories began to swirl, but the FBI wasn't chasing rumors. They followed the money. A bank statement from Switzerland, anonymously sent to the investigative team, showed over $11 million withdrawn steadily through cryptocurrency wallets, cashed out at anonymous ATMs across 3 countries: Dominican Republic, Nigeria, and Malta. The unsettling detail: that account had been opened using the passport of a man believed to be dead, a dancer who performed in Diddy's 2012 live show. As final pieces snapped into place, the outline of a closed-loop network began to emerge: rental homes in New Jersey, fake identities in Africa, disguised model casting events, and at the center of it all, none other than Diddy himself once celebrated as the king of hip-hop culture. Then came the fateful morning of June 21st, a leaked clip from the internal surveillance system at MDC prison surfaced. In it, Diddy, his eyes empty, his face bruised by tension and sleep deprivation, was seen murmuring to himself nonstop for 47 minutes. The audio ain't recorded, but his lips told a story that experts couldn't ignore. According to an independent right-wing analyst, Diddy repeatedly mouthed the some phrase, "My son, don't let them take mom." That was not the utterance of Amen fighting charges, it was either a warning or a plea. Analysts began to frame the entire set of questions, and now the objective of the investigation has expanded beyond criminal charges. It's zeroing in on the secret architecture behind a pop culture empire once glorified by Hollywood. Part 4: Faces that can no longer stay hidden. In less than 48 hours after the leaked prison liberating footage of Diddy, where he whispered in a trance for nearly an hour, repeating the phrase, "Don't let them take mom," the media storm engulfed every morning headline. But elsewhere, far from federal courtrooms and the public's outrage, a series of individuals once thought to be uninvolved began slowly coming into view. First was Quincy Taylor Brown, Diddy's adopted son, who had often appeared on television with a polished intellectual image and stayed clear of noise in the hip-hop scene for over a year. Quincy had been nearly absent from social media, kept out of the public's eye, and had made no statements regarding his godfather's legal troubles. However, leaked intel from inside the FBI revealed that Quincy had once owned an old BlackBerry phone thought to be destroyed, but in reality, it still existed. That very phone was seized at 3:27 a.m. during a quiet search at a rented storage unit registered under an intermediary, someone who had served as a production assistant for Diddy back in 2010. What was extracted from that outdated device made the entire investigative team stop and try to clarify the contents, bare sealing it as evidence. Hundreds of encrypted messages, behind-the-scenes images from events believed to be classified, and a series of audio recordings, one of which included a woman's frantic screams for help, a man's voice commanding, "Lock the door," and Quincy's own breathless whisper, "This is getting way out of hand." But those files weren't the end of it. The FBI then expanded its investigation to two figures long celebrated by the media as Diddy's cultural allies, Oprah Winfrey and Ellen DeGeneres. While Oprah, who once led the Hadn't movement with powerful on-air declarations, had remained completely silent on the allegations against Diddy for the past 6 months, Ellen, whose talk show had drawn over 20 million viewers, suddenly relocated abroad and shut down her entire Los Angeles studio. Her night, a former employee of Ellen, speaking anonymously to a local newspaper, said, "I don't know exactly what happened, but that someone once told me she kept a handwritten contract with Diddy, something no one else was allowed to see." While the public asked questions, the investigative team issued emergency subpoenas to 3 individuals who had attended Diddy's Grammy after-parties, one of them a renowned fashion designer who previously collaborated with Kanye West, had been unreachable since early in the month. When the FBI visited his Manhattan residence, the apartment was empty, all surveillance cameras dismantled, and the last known trace was a photo of him leaving from Monaco. He had a diplomatic passport issued by a Central American nation. Inside the FBI's investigation room, network maps crowded the whiteboards with lines connecting Diddy to a sprawling web of media companies, charitable foundations, real estate investment funds, and independent production studios. But what caught the attention of federal agent Ruben Tete, the lead investigator, was a money trail from an investment firm in the Bahamas to a $2.8 million wire transfer to a post-production studio in Vancouver, Canada. The studio had worked on Diddy's music videos, but had also hired amateur actors through Craigslist, an unusual practice in the industry. At the same time, an audio recording was extracted from a covert microphone installed inside Diddy's childhood home in Harlem. The clip captured a conversation between 2 men, where one mentioned Quincy by name with the phrase, "He knows more than we thought." Preliminary voice analysis suggested one of the speakers matched the voice of a legal aid who had previously defended Diddy in his 2018 lawsuit. That revelation forced Quincy to testify before a federal grand jury on Wednesday morning under strict protection. He was not charged with any crimes but his appearance sent shockwaves through the public. Could the adopted son be holding the key to unraveling everything, or was Quincy thievery linked Diddy tried to protect with that haunted look inside the detention center during the closed-door hearing, which lasted over 6 hours? No recordings were permitted and no one was allowed inside, but a lawyer present during the examination leaked to the press Quincy not only cooperated, but also submitted several audio files from 2016 featuring multiple singers, music producers, and an individual who once worked for the federal government. That night, the hashtag Quincy knows everything shot to #1 on Twitter. International media jumped in. Major law firms began removing Diddy from their client lists. The entire machinery of cover-ups began to collapse slowly but surely, and those once believed redundable now had nowhere left to hide. Part 5. The Curtain of Deceit, when the protector becomes an accomplice. On the ground floor of the FBI headquarters in Manhattan, a confidential high-security appearance meeting was convened. The discussion was no longer solely about Diddy. It had shifted toward a darker, more dangerous dimension: the individuals who supported, concealed, and orchestrated the machinery of power that allowed him to evade justice for over 2 decades. This was no longer the story of a fallen artist. It was an ecosystem of accomplices so meticulously engineered that every slip of justice was calculated in advance. The meeting began with a series of images presented by Agent Ruben Tate. They included the names of 3 law firms to accounting offices and a so-called media outreach team, actually a sophisticated PR arm designed to control public perception. But most shocking was a roster of former law enforcement officers who had been on the payroll of friendly foundations tied to bad boy records. Among them was an ex-SP prosecutor who had declined to indict Diddy in 2009, now heading a charity funding arts programs from a North in the Bronx, an organization that recently received $1 million from a Combs Enterprises subsidiary. Simultaneously, a top-secret document reached the investigation team from an anonymous source inside a prominent Midtown law firm. A 2012 non-disclosure agreement signed by Diddy, Ellen DeGeneres, and a Netflix executive is stored in a biometric encrypted safe. The agreement allegedly settles a television production scandal involving a minor and could shake the entertainment industry. Fleeked investigators immediately launched a Tier 1 witness protection risk assessment, a protocol never previously initiated in celebrity civil cases. Over the last decade in Washington, D.C., the Senate Executive Oversight Committee began requesting bank statements from those implicated to unusual transfers. Surfaced over $3 million from an account in Diddy's mother's name to a legal advocacy group within the American Civil Liberties Union network. This raised suspicions that the legal shields surrounding Diddy were more than contracted services. They represented a nurtured and reinvested alliance channeled through multiple corporate layers. Meanwhile, former Diddy bodyguard Marcus Block Williams, who had vanished from media attention since 2014, appeared unexpectedly at the FBI's Eastern New Jersey office demanding immunity in exchange for the whole truth. Marcus' 7-page declaration described a scene cleanup in 2007, thus hours after a young woman tumbled down the stairs at Diddy's private mansion. She was never reported missing, no hospital record. Sexist, according to Marcus, she was placed in an ambulance with no lights, no siren, and never returned. Then, as if triggered by dominoes, former assistants began emerging with chilling statements. Video production assistant Yule submitted an external hard drive containing 17 clips from private parties, some featuring well-known celebrities who were unaware they were being filmed. At least 3 clips had faces of women deliberately erased. FBI is now trying to identify one such woman at the same Tmall shadow account under the name T. Johnson, used to pay for digital post-production services, was traced back to Asheville Company, based in Nassau County, headed by a former New York State Court counsel. That individual has since been suspended from practice. Each piece of evidence was no longer an isolated fragment. It was a brick in the wall constructed over years to shield a rotting empire where justice was deferred by money, reputation, and intimidation. But now, that system is starting to crack. And behind the confidential agreements, non-prosecution vetoes, and scripted media statements, one biting question remained: show many people saw, knew, or were threatened but chose to stay silent. Part 6: A corroding culture. As the forensic team continued digging beneath the concrete floor of the house once owned by Diddy's mother in Mount Vernon, what they uncovered was no longer speculative. It was a horrifying reality, concealed underground for years. 6 skeletons were buried, encased in rebar-reinforced cement, a technique only someone who had invested in soundproofed homes would employ. One skeleton still wore rope bindings with frayed strands of hair and a fragment of fabric from an undated uniform. Another skeleton still held a medical ID bracelet inscribed with the name of a rehabilitation center in Brooklyn, a facility once implicated in a gang abuse scandal that closed in 2006. Those traces, paired with the charred remnants of cameras, microphones, and old hard drives, led agents to believe this was not just a bunker. It was a crime scene meticulously staged. An audio recording extracted from a decayed storage device was restored by the FBI's special digital team. The clip is under 2 minutes long, but left the entire anti-trafficking unit speechless. A male voice whispered, her arsely accompanied by sounds of water and rope scraping cement, repeatedly murmuring, I don't want. He told them, I don't want to go back. Diddy made me made meth. Audio abruptly cuts off with a muffled pop, like a recorder being switched off, and then falls silent. The FBI spokesperson confirmed that the device was found within the mortar near the remains and is likely evidence never previously disclosed or deliberately erased. But something even more chilling: grained a phrase was carved into the brick wall, the right etched so deeply mortar crumbled. Tell my mother tried. That single message did more than bring investigators to tears. It compelled the entire federal system to ask again, whole let this happen, who was paid not to look, and why did everyone choose silence? While the FBI prepares to escalate the case to federal scope, the Department of Justice has quietly teamed up with Interpol to audit financial transactions. From 2004 to 2016, they uncovered a chain of funds flowing from anonymous accounts into rehab facilities, artist training centers, and various charities that collaborated with Combs Enterprises. Coincidentally, most of these centers closed, faced lawsuits, or vanished without a trace. An internal DOJ report disclosed that at least 13 perpetuations owned by Diddy-affiliated entities were sold off at nominal prices within 90 days of reported disappearances in Florida, Nevada, and Pennsylvania. Disputation has crystallized. This is no longer individual criminal activity. This is an institutional structure. In Washington, D.C., a special team of prosecutors has been formed under the leadership of the Eastern District of New York's U.S. Attorney, known for dismantling the NX14M and Epstein trafficking networks. At a brief press conference, the DOJ spokesperson stated, we are treating this case a fully funded criminal enterprise protected by powerful media, financial, and political forces. Diddy's legal team immediately sealed the records, citing prejudice to the ongoing trial, but when the judge rejected their request, citing public interest outweighs the defendant's privacy, the case file began to be released piece by piece, detail by detail, including testimonies from those once silenced. An anonymous female witness testified that she was held in that basement for 3 days after a Manhattan party. She reported, they told me I wasn't allowed to leave, then a man came down. I couldn't see his face, but I heard rap music from his phone. It was Diddy's music, she added. When I screamed, they didn't gag me, they just turned up the music. Forensic audio analysis by FBI confirmed that the basement walls were engineered to create reverb techniques commonly used in recording studios. Perhaps most shocking of all was the protected persons list reconstructed digitally from shredded documents. It included at least 12 high-profile names, among them a sports star to state politicians, and 3 Grammy-winning music producers listed beneath payment codes, and the note security handling if urgent contact directly via burner line. This is the first evidence suggesting a conspiracy, or conspiracies maintained for nearly 2 decades, but not everyone chose silence. A former assistant who worked at the home of Diddy's mother came forward claiming to have witnessed heavy sealed boxes with no labels being transferred from the basement to a truck at night. He said he was fired after asking, is that music equipment, and never received his final paycheck. He said, I was going to speak up, but I was given a Rolex watch and an envelope that said don't. That was it. In a recent survey by the media, Justice Institute 68% of Americans pled no longer believe a celebrities can be innocent if accused. At this level, 74% supported publishing full list of those who signed NDAs with Diddy-affiliated entities. Regardless of stature, this shift in public opinion is more than a media shock. It warns the entire entertainment industry that the public will no longer allow big names to hide behind facades of success and philanthropy, and if the testimony remains, audio recordings and footage are not enough to dismantle the platinum and trophy-built fortress. The victim's cold, resolute anger, no longer silent, but now vocal, will do so because know that the basement has been exposed, the bodies unearthed, and the masks of deception have fallen. The only thing left for Diddy that money cannot buy is forgiveness. At the time this article was written, Diddy's mother's house remained under lockdown. Forensic examinations were still ongoing, and those who had stayed silent were beginning to speak one by one. What lay buried beneath that floor wasn't just bone, it was memory, forgotten pain, and evidence of a system that had allowed power to obscure justice for far too long. And if those remains could speak, perhaps they wouldn't scream, they would whisper. Someone finally came to us up. We are witnessing a rare moment, one where the media, the law, and the truth stand on the same side. But the question remains, will this outrage endure, or will it fade away like so many short-lived storms of moral reckoning? Bored. If you've ever questioned things, if you've ever had doubts, if something has felt wrong for years and no one could explain why, then now is that time to speak. Leave your thoughts below. Don't just say you care, prove you're listening. And if you believe the truth deserves to keep coming to light, share this story.